So what does it actually mean to be a leader today? You know, it's not really about being the one in command, sitting at the top of an org chart. It's about having the courage to step into the arena and lead with your whole heart. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. It's this incredibly powerful blueprint that completely redefines leadership through courage, empathy, and authenticity.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big one. What even is leadership anymore? Then, we'll get into the surprising power of vulnerability and see how that's all tied up with our core values and trust. From there, we'll look at how daring leaders get back up after they fall, why being emotionally honest is an absolute must. And finally, we'll get into the real, practical steps to put all of this into action.
All right, let's just dive right in. First up, leadership reimagined. We're going to see how Brené Brown completely flips the script on the whole traditional idea of a leader, moving away from a model of power over people to one of power with people.
And this right here, this is the new definition. And honestly, it's a total game changer. It means leadership has nothing to do with your job title or where you are in the hierarchy. It's all about your impact. It's about having the guts to see potential in someone or something, and then having the commitment to help it grow. It basically makes leadership something that's available to everyone.
Okay, so this slide, it just lays it out perfectly, the two different paths a leader can take. Which one feels more familiar? Over on the left, you've got armored leadership. That's all about protecting yourself, being driven by fear and control. Think micromanaging or never wanting to hear feedback. But then on the right, you have daring leadership, which is all about taking off that armor and choosing vulnerability, curiosity, and a shared purpose instead.
And that leads us right into the absolute heart of daring leadership, the power of vulnerability. Brown has this great term for it she calls the practice of leaning into this discomfort, rumbling with vulnerability. And listen, this is not some soft skill. It's the actual engine of innovation and trust.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's the one thing that holds so many of us back. Our entire culture basically teaches us that if you're vulnerable, you're weak. But what we're about to see is a challenge to that entire assumption.
And the answer? It's a huge, resounding no. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's defined right here as emotional exposure, risk, and uncertainty. It's the courage to show up even when you have no control over the outcome. It's literally the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and trust.
Brown's work is all about systematically tearing down these myths that keep us hiding behind our armor. We just talked about the whole weakness myth, but another huge one is this idea that you have to completely trust someone before you can be vulnerable. The reality is, vulnerability and trust, they're built together little by little, one moment at a time.
Okay, but here's the thing, and this is so important. Vulnerability doesn't just happen in a vacuum. To lead with real courage, it has to be anchored in a really solid foundation of clear values and trust that you've intentionally built.
I love this. It's such a powerful mantra from the book. It's this reminder that being direct, setting clear expectations, and having those tough conversations, that's not being harsh. It's actually a form of respect. Avoiding clarity just to try and spare someone's feelings usually ends up causing way more confusion and pain down the road.
Now, this is what I think is so cool about her work. She takes this big, fuzzy idea, like trust, and makes it something you can actually do. The Braving acronym breaks it down into 7 things you can see and measure. It's not some magic feeling, it's a practice. Are you setting boundaries? Are you being reliable? Do you take accountability? It gives us all a language and a framework to build trust, and just as importantly, to repair it when it's broken.
And here it is. Here's the kicker. You can't actually practice any of those elements of braving with other people if you don't first practice them with yourself. Your ability to earn your team's trust starts with your ability to trust yourself, to be reliable, accountable, and kind to yourself first.
Okay, let's be real for a second. If you're really out there being brave, you are going to fall. Failure isn't just a possibility, it's pretty much inevitable. So the true test of a daring leader isn't whether they fall, but how they get back up. This whole section is about that process, about resilience as a practice of turning pain into wisdom. So how do you do it? Brown gives us this 3-step roadmap for resilience called the Rising Strong process. It kicks off with the reckoning, which is where you get brutally honest about what you're feeling. Then you move into the rumble, where you have to challenge the story you're telling yourself about the failure, because we all make up stories to protect our egos. And finally, there's the revolution. That's where you write a new, more truthful ending, and you use what you've learned to change how you show up next time.
So how do we get better at that whole reckoning and rumbling thing? Well, it all boils down to emotional honesty. Daring leaders, they don't suppress their emotions, they get curious about them. They work on their emotional literacy so they can actually name what they're feeling, because they know you can't navigate what you can't name.
And let's talk about one of the most toxic emotions out there, especially in a workplace: shame. It absolutely thrives in silence and secrecy, and it just kills creativity and risk-taking. The only antidote? Empathy. And that's exactly why daring leaders are so focused on building cultures where it's safe to fail, where being imperfect is just expected, and where being vulnerable is met with connection, not with judgment.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the what and the why. We've covered the core concepts. But now, let's get down to the brass tacks. How do we actually do this stuff and build these courageous cultures day in and day out?
And this is where it gets super practical. Brown points to 10 of these corrosive behaviors, things we all recognize, like gossip, blame, favoritism, and you can think of them like poison for your team's culture. They just erode trust piece by piece. And for every single one, she offers a direct antidote, a courage-building practice, like speaking directly to people instead of about them, that actually builds trust and connection.
So when you boil it all down, this isn't some checklist you can just tick off. It's really a call to a deep, personal, and organizational transformation. It's a daily practice of choosing to show up, to have the hard conversations, to be consistent in what you do, and to get back up with humility and grace every single time you fall.
And that brings us right back to the beginning, full circle. The final, most important takeaway is that daring leadership shifts our entire focus away from power and control to something way more meaningful. It's about serving the people you lead, it's about fostering real connection, and it's about creating a place where everyone has the chance to grow. So the real question is, are you ready to step into the arena?